Hi everybody, Rad Mom here. Welcome back to the porch. Actually, this is our first time out here, I think. But I will often sit out here and write on the book that I'm about to be reading in chapter 4 from, which is my rough draft of my first novel, Bexwold Arcana. So, chapter 4. Yay! Where do we leave off at? After Christmas, after they locked her in the dungeon. She hid her little book in the little nook above the garden. Yeah, so, and now we're moving on, and, it's like literally the next day, I guess. Fun times. Yeah, some of the time breaks are a little confusing. Like I say, this is a rough draft, and I'm going to be walking you through it because I would love some feedback and from any and all people who are interested in this kind of stuff. You know, historical fiction, feminist fiction, historical fantasy, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, we're sitting out here with the wind tonight, and I hope that everyone can hear me okay. For chapter 4, we're going to put you up on the little podium. Thank you so much for joining me. Please like the video if you enjoy my content. I will be getting back to some of the political commentary, some of the more direct political commentary soon. And I assure you that this novel is not unrelated to all of that. It's very related to all of that. I'm pretty convinced that we're not going to tear down patriarchy by a frontal assault. Pretty sure that's been tried more than once. I don't think that's going to work. So what I'm trying to do is disseminate certain ideas and philosophical concepts into the zeitgeist. If you'll allow me to use, my vocabulary is way too big. Anyway, so thank you so much for joining me. Please subscribe to the channel so that we can work together to drag feminism back into the real world, because it has to happen. And I understand that doing that through fiction might seem a little circuitous, but I assure you that it can be a powerful tool for changing the culture. So, on that note, let's read chapter 4. Oatmeal on a breakfast tray told me she might not come for me till the afternoon. I would be long gone by then. I gathered my supplies, squinting in the light reflected in by the delicate layer of fresh snow. 2 pairs of wool stockings under warm pantlets, covered with a pair of George's old trousers. 2 shifts, followed by my lucky linen, just taken out again by Mrs. Loftus. A thick tunic, pinched in half by a woolen skirt, mounded over by one of Father's sweaters. Over it all went my fur-lined cloak. The knit cap made my head itch. The matching gloves made my hands next to useless, so they went into my pocket. Finding the kitchen empty, a few other things did too. I scavenged a loaf of white bread, an orange, and a bit of leftover liver. These I wrapped in a cheesecloth and tucked safely away, stealing a swig of milk from the icebox. Stepping out into the bright sun, I broke into a run diagonally across the high lawn to where it mounted against the footpath before the gate. I took a running jump against the gate only for it to bounce back. I skidded, stumbling backward, glancing over my shoulder. The curtains in the corner window remained shut. Walking around the crested edge of the lawn, I crossed the frosted grass to the overgrown line of stones that cut across flush with the turf. Only half buried, it was a little wall facing a low ditch designed to stop deer. I hugged my cloak closed and hopped down, following along the crumbling masonry to meet the other side of the gate. I followed the footpath a ways before turning into the dell, hopping from rock to root to follow the rushing winter stream. It soon met a brook, the junction rippling beneath the broad reach of an old walnut tree. I grabbed the veiny bark, hiking up my skirts as I toed the crevices to climb to the first fork. Here, one massive bough jutted its elegant curve out across the water, forming a natural bridge. I tiptoed along it from branch to branch, stepping off atop the high embankment. Surely no adult could ever manage such a trick. Surrounded by dense trees, a few steps brought me to a thin ribbon of packed ground meandering through the woodland. Bare branches came together too low for a man to walk, and I followed it along the ridge as it sloped gently eastward. Frosty edges dripped beneath the bright sun, the quiet interrupted only by the odd squirrel and my own soft footsteps. I put my cowl back and let the warm light hit my face. I came to a stop before the thick, rotting trunk of a fallen tree. Beyond it, the animal trackway continued, following the ridge before eventually leaving the woods for grassy hills. To my left, the other fork disappeared between the trees. Today, I would discover what lay in the wide, shallow valley. The trackway wandered down, the trees slowly giving way to tall grass and shrubs. Sleeping vine coiled round waxy leaves, undergrowth woven together, making it impossible to see much. The high tops of evergreen swayed in an unfelt breeze, the shadowy bracken still and quiet. Away to my right there opened up a bright, flat patch of snow gleaming in the sunlight. I clutched my cloak around me and pushed through thorn and nettle until I broke into a wide circular clearing. I traipsed straight across, counting 50 paces before reaching the far edge and turning back. Near the spot where I had entered sat the base of an old tree, its flat center in a semicircle of spears of weathered bark, thick roots like steps. A throne fit for a fairy queen. A pang in my stomach reminded me of the cheesecloth. I walked back across and stepped up the mossy roots. Turning, I was able to tuck my skirts and sit. I tapped off my boots and pulled my feet up, laying the bundle across my lap. I peeled the orange and stuffed a slice in my mouth, juice gushing across my chin. I giggled, slurping, chewing slowly as the sun warmed my shoulders. It slipped below the treetops as I polished off the bread, the glow of the fairy circle fading to shadow. I slid down off the stump, crumpling the cheesecloth in my pocket and leaving the orange peel for my invisible hosts. Light broke stubbornly between bare branches. I pulled my cowl forward, diving back into the bush the way I had come. I lay my cloak across the settee, standing before the chest of drawers to empty my pockets. A few flower husks, a lovely stone, knit hat, and one glove. The door behind me swung open. "Where have you been?" Her low tone implied coiled fury. I held my breath. She walked in with a sigh. "It doesn't really matter. You can't stay out all night, can you?" Continuing straight through the second doorway, she carried on from the next room. "And you're just in time for service." If only I could find the fairies. "I hoped you'd be sensible enough not to freeze in the dark, so I had Kathy make you a bath." The wardrobe door creaked and the hangers clanked. "Go clean up, and I will get some clothes ready." Some of the more observant among you may have noticed that we have a little guest on the channel tonight. That's my little elephant friend. Isn't he adorable? Anyway, moving on. Behind the carved screen in her bedroom, the porcelain tub waited full of warm water. Kathy helped me climb in, dampness wicking up my shift so it clung to my skin. I sat down and closed my eyes, leaning against the side to slide slowly down until the water covered me. The warm wetness soaked into my hair, my shift bobbing against my fingers. I sat up, blowing drops from my lips and nose. "Here's a cloth for you." Kathy was bundling my discarded things over her arm. "Rub it in all the creases while I fetch dry underthings." I took the frothy rag, draped over the lip of the tub, and followed her instructions. Streams of tiny bubbles crowded the surface as the warmth began to fade. I stood up, shivering, the thick white towel doing nothing for the dripping, clinging linen. Kathy wore a soft smile as she gestured toward the bed and the warm, glowing grate. "I laid them over there, lassie." Dry and covered, I followed the light of her lamp back through the house to squint in the yellow glow of my bedroom. "Much better." Mother pulled me over to the standing mirror, grasping my shoulders. Her pale face smiled above my head. "I think you're ready." Kathy retrieved something from the corner. Over my shoulder, I saw the bell-shaped garment sway in her hands. My Coco is becoming a lady. My long petticoats brushed the snow, bobbing round me at odd angles as I navigated the little carriage door. Squeezed beside Georgie, the front of my skirts jutted up off the floor, frigid air seeping into my pantlets. I drew my cloak around me. Lulu climbed carefully to perch amid the mounds of dark fabric on Mother's lap, Charlie wedging his thin frame in next to them. We lurched into motion, Lulu's eyes growing wide. "What about Daddy?" Mother patted her shoulders. "He'll be along." Gravel crunched as we turned onto the avenue lined with thick trees, smirking in the bouncing light of the carriage lanterns. Her gaze fell in from the window, landing on me. "Where's your hat?" My fingers flew to my head. I left it. "And your gloves?" Heat billowed up my throat. "I lost one." "Already?" She clicked her tongue, her shoulders slumping with a sigh as her gaze drifted back out the window. Rolling along the village road between mossy walls, we passed groups on foot, all heading in the same direction. Lulu pointed a chubby finger. "Where are they going, Mama?" "It's Christmas, darling. We're all celebrating the birth of the Savior." Little hands clapped. "There's a baby?" "No, Lulu, not here." Mother's back stiffened as we came to the bend in the road. "Aw." Brown curls swayed as she whined her disappointment. The little road bulged into a curve in the wall, narrow steps, cutting a slow curve across a low hill. The stairs had been swept clear, icy caps on rounded stones all around gleaming in the light of many lanterns. Inside was strewn with evergreen boughs, glass baubles of every color dangling from everything. Voices buzzed, Mother shooing us past the two white stone figures sleeping through it all. We passed up the center aisle, my skirts bouncing twice with every step. I followed my brothers to squeeze into the front pew, twisted and squashed as I sat. A cherry-cheeked woman took the bench before our high-backed piano as three others in white robes took their places. A chord was struck and everyone stood, my skirts tugged in several directions. I felt a crunch beneath my shoe. Seated again, I lifted my toe and confirmed the bottom rung of my little cloth cage was broken. Father Matthews began to speak. Mother pulled a small, weathered tome from her pocket. "When is supper, Mama?" asked Lulu a little too loudly. "I'm hungry." On the other side of me, Georgie choked back laughter. Mother was shushing her, but it was time to stand again. Stepping forward with my other foot, I felt another crunch. Flames roared inside. I slid the metal grate shut and brushed my palms on each other, sitting back on the rug. The bedroom behind me dark. I had left the blankets to stoke the grate and lingered, reaching for paper and kindling each time it began to die back. The crinoline lay draped across the wooden chest at the foot of the bed, tines under thin fabric grinning at me in the flickering firelight. "What have you done to it?" Her voice had rung off the walls when Kathy held it up for her inspection. Can't you behave for even a single evening?" The grate before me popped, flaring hungrily. She had snatched it from Kathy, shaking it as she paced towards me. "Even every decent woman in Christendom wears them. If only you had the slightest bit of decorum, just the slightest bit." She had stopped abruptly, giving it one last look over before tossing it onto the chest with a scoff, bobbing away without another word. I bunched my nightgown to my knees to crawl across the rug. Running my finger over an exposed slat, it wiggled. With a tug, it came free in my hand. I gripped the skinny tooth in my fist, the fire beginning to fade. I slid the grate open and dropped the tooth among the twigs and ash. It bowed and curled before a flash of orange pierced and consumed it. I dragged the crinoline off the wooden chest, laying it beside the open grate. "It's so cold in here." So yeah, that's chapter 4. There's a little bit of rebellion there. And it's true that the crinolines were very flammable. And I believe that's part of the reason women stopped wearing them. But, you know, to have to resort to having like a little cage around yourself to keep from getting, assaulted and pinched and whatever. That's the other reason I heard they wore them in the first place. So that's fun. That's a little bit of history lesson for you, along with your fiction. I have been Rad Mom, reading chapter 4 of my debut novel, the rough draft of it. I have been Rad Mom, reading chapter 4 of the rough draft of my debut novel, Bexwold Arcana. Thank you so much for joining me. Please like the video if you enjoy my content. I will be getting back to direct political commentary soon. But I promise you the book is relevant. It really, really is. And I promise you we're building to some stuff. And so subscribe to the channel too, so we can all work together to drag feminism back into the real world, because it's got to happen. And join me tomorrow on Friday for chapter 5, and then on Saturday for the live stream, where we have a very, very interesting topic, which was kindly donated, whatever, by one of our viewers. Thank you, Melissa. And thank you so much for joining me once again. I've been Rad Mom, and I will see you all tomorrow for chapter 5. Bye now. So, somewhere, I have like stuff and a lighter and some junk and whatever. So like, what the fuck? Oh, yeah. It's in the bag. Yeah. What a fucking concept. Alright. Okay. So, yeah. We're good. Alright.